Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and I'm taking a little bit of a sideways break from Kickstarters for a while on this show. Instead, we're going to talk to a fantastic writer who has a host of great books already. So this book's out in comic book shops. You'll be able to get it with a diamond code, which I'll share with you all later. I'm talking about The Science of Ghostwriter, the fantastic, the ultra talented, it's Lilah Sturges. Lilah, how's it going?
It's going really well. It feels good to be ultra talented.
Ultra talented with a British accent, no less.
I know. That makes it so much fancier.
Yeah. Yes, I drink like that. Yes. So, thank you for joining me tonight or today, depending on where you are in the world. Lovely to have you on the show. Tell us a little bit about your book. It's Science of Ghosts. We've got the backdrop there for you as well.
It is called The Science of Ghosts. It's coming out from Legendary Comics. It is the story of, hey, look, it's right there. It is the story of Joy Ravenna, who is a forensic parapsychologist, which means
that's a lot of syllables, I've got to say.
It is. But very carefully chosen syllables. She studies ghost behavior and she uses it to solve crimes. That's the basic elevator pitch.
All right, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. All right, so you've got a parapsychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Not jumping out of planes then, no? That's a different type of para, right?
Yeah.
All right, but there's also elements to this story that make it a little bit more personal, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
So Joy herself is transgender, moving from male to female, and you yourself have gone through that journey.
I sure have.
How is it? What's it like, kind of putting those personal aspects of your journey onto a book like this?
Well, obviously it's very personal, right? And sometimes, when you write a story, you want to throw as much of yourself into it as you can. And sometimes you don't necessarily want to do that. But in this instance, I really did. And the thing is, for a long time, I've wanted to do a story that had a trans protagonist, but where the story wasn't really about the fact that they were trans. This book is not about being transgender. It's about ghosts and mysteries and murders. But it just so happens that this character is transgender, and that informs how she sees things, how she looks at things. It's clear from her, her personal life is affected by it. So it creates, for me, kind of a fascinating backdrop for the character, and has interesting implications for the character and who she is and what she does. But it's not necessarily the focus of the story. And
you do a great job of that, actually, because it's people would see, they just read the blurb on Diamond, they'll be like, oh, here we go, preach. It's not like that at all. It's an entertaining story. It just so happens to have. And that's a great credit to you as a writer. Absolutely.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think it's important to have those kinds of stories. It does two things. For LGBT readers, it's like we don't want to see the same stories over and over again. I could tell 100 stories about someone who's like realizing they're trans and coming out and transitioning and but those stories have been told in a lot for ways. And I'm not really interested in telling that story, but I still want people to be able to see themselves in a character. And I think for non-trans people, it's a way of seeing like, well, this is, yes, she's a trans person, but she's also just a person. You know, she's not wholly different from anyone else. She just has a different background.
I get this. I absolutely totally get this, because I was reading the book last week. I was reading the book, and she has a frosty relationship with her ex-wife, which, to be fair, going through the things that the pair have gone through, you can understand. But take the trans element out of that, and I'll let you in a little secret. I have a frosty relationship with my exes. It doesn't matter if you're gay, bi, straight, lesbian, cross-dresser, LGBTQ plus Q, whatever. It doesn't matter. We tend to have frosty relationships with our exes for whatever reason it is,
Right.
So I thought that was really well observed, and I really enjoyed that aspect, because it comes up later up as an insecurity somewhere else in the book. And I thought that was, again, really well observed. And I thought, you know what? I get that the character's trans, and I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. It's part of who the character is. But the feelings and the situations she has with her relationship in her peers is so genuine, and it just works really, really well. So well done for that. Absolutely spot on.
Thanks.
So, yeah, thanks. Yeah, she's like,
my pleasure.
Oh, great. So, Parasite. What was it that made you want to write Parapsychologist? Don't tell me you're an old X-Files fan.
I mean, I am certainly an X-Files fan, but for me, it goes back a lot earlier than that. When I was growing up, and I hate to date myself, but when I was growing up in the 1920s,
I'd hate to date me as well. I'm awful. I snore. I'm loud.
Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Yeah, I don't know how my wife puts up with me, but there was this show called In Search Of on American television, and it was all about like UFOs and the unexplained and Bigfoot and all that stuff. And so I've always been really fascinated with the things like ghosts and spontaneous human combustion and just all these mysteries that seem just a little out of the reach of reality, but also that people have tried to kind of do science about. And that meeting point of science and the supernatural has always been really, really interesting to me.
So let me ask you a couple of questions then. All right, let's see how X-Files you really are. Do you believe there are aliens out there?
Do I really believe there are aliens out there? I don't know. I think that it would be very difficult for the aliens to get here because the speed of light is really slow in terms of getting from one planet to another planet in a different solar system.
I've seen Star Trek. It's dead easy. I mean, Star Wars is a documentary, right? It says so right at the start of the movie a long time ago. So it's got to be a documentary. It's a history piece.
So that's a boring answer, but I think a more interesting answer is what if the things that we think of as UFOs are not aliens, but time travelers?
Oh, man. I'm British. You can't bring up time travel. You know I'm going to go Doctor Who.
Hey, we can talk about Doctor Who all day long if you want to. That's absolutely fine with me. If this was a Doctor Who, if we just did a Doctor Who podcast, brilliant.
You know what? We'll arrange that. We'll do that one. I quite like that. Who's your favorite Doctor?
Well, my Doctor is Tom Baker.
Good call. If you were here, you'd have a high five. There you go.
Yes.
Tom
I
Baker,
really love
Lilah, K9. That's my Doctor.
Sarah Jane. Lilah.
Sorry. Short skirts and the boots.
Romana.
Which one?
Romana 2.
I quite like Romana 1. I have to tell you this. You'll get a kick out of this. So when I was a kid in the 70s, we had a couple of cats. One called Mitzi. She had kittens. We kept one of the kittens, and we called her Romana after Romana from Doctor Who.
Mhm.
And she got Marnie for short, Marnie, right?
Mhm.
And then my mum decided that we didn't want any more kittens, so off Mitzi went to have the conversation with the vet, and then when she came back, Marnie went. All right, because the cats went out in the 70s and stuff and whatever. At which point, when I went to pick Marnie up the next day, the vet goes, "I've got something to tell you. Marnie's a boy." So we went the first trans cat. That's what I'm saying. So it went from Romana to Marnie, from Marnie to Man. That's what they said. Honestly, thing got hit by a car and survived. It was immense. It was such a great cat. Love it. But yeah, what can I say? Yeah, Tom Baker for me. My wife is. She'd either go Eccleston, as she should. She go Eccleston, Tennant, and Matt Smith. We started dating when Matt Smith was announced as Doctor Who, so it's always like a bit of a special part for us from there. But, cool. We'll save the Doctor for another time.
Yeah. The only way that actually matters to this interview is I did once write a Doctor Who comic featuring the Matt Smith Doctor.
Really? With his bow tie and his fez?
With his bow tie and his fez?
I've got some of your work actually. I had to look through. I had to look through. We've digressed a little bit. We'll come back to your work. I believe in aliens. I look up at the sky. I see all those stars. We can't be the only intelligent life in the planet, in the universe. We just can't. There's going to be more out there. You know?
Oh, I agree.
Ghosts. I'm not sure if I believe in ghosts. I may not say that when I'm talking to the science of ghosts, should I? Yes, your work. I've got some of your work. I've had a look through this. I've got some of your Justice Society stuff. In fact, I've got all of that. 24, 29 through 33 in Annual 2. Yep. Giant, JSA 8-page Giant from 2010. Got that. I've got some of your All-Star stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've got to be honest, I'm a Power Girl fan for obvious reasons. You love Power Girl. I've got your Power Girl book. I've got your Zatanna book. So, yeah. I have. I don't read Marvel so much, so no, I'm never a big Blue Beetle fan. House of Mystery, though, what was that like? Because I love the idea of the House of Mystery.
That was such a fun book to write. It turns out that Karen Berger, who was running Vertigo at the time, had a real soft spot for House of Mystery, and she had one of her first jobs was editing House of Mystery way back when. And so when we pitched, Shelley Bond and I pitched the idea of reviving the House of Mystery, she was really excited, and so we came up with this whole concept about the house being, you know, this bar that people were sort of trapped in, and we didn't want to call it an anthology because apparently anthology was a dirty word at DC in those days. So we had this idea of an ongoing story, but each issue would have one little short story in it. And that was how we got around calling it an anthology. But it was great because I got to work with some of the best artists in the entire business. I got to work with Gilbert Hernandez. I got to work with oh my gosh, just so many incredible people. I don't want to name too many names because I don't want to leave anyone out, but Darwin Cook.
Darwin Cook. The late great. That was a real highlight. Great Darwin Cook. You can't say Darwin Cook, I would say late great, I'm afraid. He's an absolute genius.
An absolute legend.
Absolutely. So what was it about comics? What got you into comics in the first place, Lilah?
I did not read them growing up. I didn't find comics particularly interesting as a kid. I wasn't really interested in superheroes as a kid. I was much more interested in Doctor Who, honestly. That was my thing. And Star Wars. And
who's your favorite Star Wars character? I've jumped in, sorry. Who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Princess Leia.
Oh, yeah, that's a good shout. That's a good shout. Chewbacca for me.
That's fair.
he's just, you know, the when he howls when she dies.
Yeah,
My heart broke. Absolutely heart broke for him. No, so
very
sad.
sad.
Anyway, sorry, I interjected there. Apologies. So superheroes, no. Star Wars, Doctor Who, yes. And
Yes.
how did that manage to manifest itself in the comic books then?
Well, when I went to university, I met a fellow named Chris Robertson, who has gone on to write a bunch of comics himself. And he was a big comic book fan. And he pointed me to a book called Sandman.
Never heard of it. What's that about?
Never. No, it's a very obscure title.
Yeah,
Not many
no one's
people.
read. No one's ever heard that. No one's read that. Nah.
And this was just as it was coming out, just as it was starting to come out. I think the first issue that I read was issue 8.
Just starting to get a bit of a following then.
And so we, followed it month by month as, trying to figure out all the mysteries, or trying to figure out who the 7th member of the Endless was and all that stuff. And it was very, very exciting time to read comics, because there was that sort of British invasion and all the stuff that would go on to become Vertigo. All that stuff was happening. And that was the stuff that really got me into comics.
Cool. Very good. So a bit of Hellblazer, a bit of Swamp Thing.
Oh, yeah.
Bit of, as you say, Sandman, a little bit of Life of Death, maybe, later on down the line. Sandman Mystery Theater.
Loved it.
Loved it. I agree.
Yeah.
Loved that book. Loved it.
Shade the Changing Man.
I was late to the party on Shade, and I was late to the party on Animal Man and Doom Patrol. I never managed to get into Doom Patrol, especially the Morrison run. I always find Grant Morrison's. He's like Marmite. You either love him or you hate him, and it depends what he's writing. You know what I'm saying? It's like his Batman's really good, but his X-Men's really long-winded. You kind of like, so I must be a fickle Morrison fan. It doesn't always hit the spot for me, I'm afraid.
But it's funny, isn't it? Because I would say that Morrison's X-Men is my favorite X-Men.
Really? Over Claremont?
Far, yeah.
Over. See, we're going to fall out now. I'm joking. It's fine. It's fine. I like it. Yeah. Morrison's is an X-Men for an older reader for sure.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. And I have got a lot of his X-Men run. I do enjoy it. I love the Cuckoos, and I love Emma and Scott. I think I prefer Emma with Scott than I prefer Scott with Jean, to be honest. So
that's fair.
Maybe I hate what you mean. I prefer Peter Parker with Deborah Whitman. That's how bonkers I am. Just saying.
Hey, look, it's a big fandom. We're all allowed to like what we like.
Yeah, go on. There we are. Yes, old timers. Deborah Whitman for the win. None of this MJ malarkey. So, Sandman, Vertigo. You then kind of fall into some superheroes. How did that kind of? How did you? If you taste a Vertigo list, and you have worked on Vertigo with House of Secrets, how did that kind of move over into the superhero world then? Because the Cape and Cowl crowd's a little bit different, isn't it?
I kind of approached writing superhero as a sort of like an interesting problem in storytelling.
Okay.
I wanted to do something a little different, but I wanted it to work. But I think I also wanted to. I think the reason I was never a great superhero writer is because I didn't grow up loving them. And so I always had kind of a cynical eye toward them. And so I think that kind of comes through in my work a little bit, that looking back now, that I was kind of like, I don't know about this, guys. Are we sure about this?
I think you're doing yourself a massive disservice, Lilah. I think some of the best writers are people who weren't into superhero comics. I think what can happen is if you're into a particular genre, you can get a little bit blind to it,
True.
And you end up just rehashing the thing that you loved in the first place, right? Whereas
Right.
if somebody's coming into it and they're not particularly like superhero mad, then you get a chance to do something original because you're pushing the boundaries. Because through not reading it in the past, you're not aware of what the boundaries are.
True.
So I think, I think you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice there, my dear. Sorry on that one. I shall disagree with you because I can. Oh.
That's fair. We can agree to disagree.
No, that's fine. If you looking back at your work is anything like me looking back at my work, we are both probably our harshest critics.
Probably so.
Yeah, it's probably fine. Right, before we get a look at the book and some of the gorgeous art inside there, it's time for one of our adverts for one of our other shows. Right, ladies' choice on this one. It didn't work when I did this last time, so I'll have to give you a little bit more prep. All right, you've got the No Price Podcast, Marvel, the Definitive Crusade, DC, the Old Timers Comic Book Show, and Crisis in the Toyverse. Oh, we also have a K-pop. Crisis in the Toyverse is fun. K-pop's about Korean music. So where would you like to go?
Honestly, I'm a little bit of a BTS fan. I'm going to throw a curveball and
You
say
want K-pop?
Mm-hmm.
K-pop Cosmos. Here it goes. There you have it, K-pop Cosmos with Freya and Marky Mark. Show drops once a month, and it does what it says on the tin. It's all about K-pop, fashion, music, everything. I'm glad you like BTS. I couldn't pick them out from a crowd, so there you go. It's like dancing Power Rangers to me.
That's kind of it, yeah.
As I've said that now, I've insulted loads of fans. Everyone's going click, 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 click off. Right, let's have a look at the book. So I've got the advanced copy on this, so things might change. You never know. I have to say right from the start that I was absolutely surprised when he says when the page is finally turned. Come on. I went that way. The other way, please. Thank you. 3, 4. It's a black and white book. What's that all about?
It's a black and white book.
The world is not black and white. It's rainbow colors, surely. You've missed a trick there.
This was we couldn't afford to do it in color. No.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good shout, actually. I don't. Yeah. It's a good call.
No, we decided early on to do it in black and white because because I love black and white art with tones. Something about it really speaks to me. The other reason was we wanted it to have this really sort of noir quality to it. And so when my editor, Jan Jones, first suggested it, we didn't even think that hard about it. She was just like, what if we did this in black and white? And I was like, yes, let's do it.
Noir seems to be making a massive comeback. I don't know what it is. Over the last probably 3 months, I've seen a lot of people saying, oh yeah, it's very noir. I'm like, what happened? Did the colour get taken out of the world? What happened? Yeah, I come from an age where I used to have a black and white TV. I want colour in my comic. No, I'm joking. Not about the black and white TV. I think it adds atmosphere massively. And do you know what I think is really, really impressive? How you've got this kind of horror scene going on early doors, but then when you get introduced to the characters, Joy and the partner, it absolutely changes. The tone just lightens so much. And I thought that was clever. That was a clever touch. Your artist for this book is whom? I saw that.
Elle Gehring.
So how was that working with an artist who was just going black and white? Were they of the same mind that you wanted to go? Did they want to go black and white?
It was, it was something that we had agreed on from the very start. So we already knew it was going to be black and white before we even brought the artist on. So it was kind of a fait accompli at that point.
Cool.
But he was very excited to do it.
Cool. Excellent. Excellent. I love the art. The art works really well across the board. There's not a single element of the art that I think doesn't work. The one thing I noticed early on was the Joy's Roman nose, because I see it later on in the panel. I was like, I didn't know the nose was like that. I went back to check. I was like, did I miss this? And thinking I had my little red pen out ready to make some marks. I was like, oh yeah, I did miss it. Who'd have thunk? So there's consistency of character design there. When you came to kind of plotting this out, what type of writer are you? Do you kind of have your key points? Do you have your right, there's going to be this, then this, then this. Now how the hell do I get it to fit? Or do you just are you very linear when you come to writing your approach?
When I write, especially a graphic novel, which I've done several of now, the idea usually comes to me mostly in one burst. And I spend a few days or a few weeks sort of figuring it all out in my head before I even write anything down. I like to twiddle things around in my head and twist all the knobs and see what all the different parameters might be. But usually before I commit anything to paper, I have a fairly good idea of what's going to happen. And then I'll sit down and I'll type out 7 or 8 pages worth of the story, just tell myself the story. And then I use that as a guideline for writing the script. So I usually have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, but I always leave room for surprises to let the story. If something jumps out during a particular writing session, you want to be open to it and be able to pivot if something interesting comes along.
It's interesting you say that. I read an article about the Babylon 5 creator, J. Michael Straczynski, and he said that when he wrote Babylon 5, every character had a trapdoor. So in case something happened, he could exit stage left anybody. and that essentially happened, they changed commanders and he got trapdoored out, but then kind of came back as something that added more gravitas to things. Ivanova got trapdoored out, Marcus got trapdoored out. All these characters kind of have their moment, and and it as a whole, it doesn't affect it. In fact, it probably improves it. Because in Babylon 5 case, you couldn't have Jeffrey Sinclair being a politician, a great war leader, and a religious character as well. So they had to break that up just to make more sense. So no, it's interesting how you build that pivot in there, because I imagine, and this is just me, the view from the cheap seats, I imagine that writers are kind of like pseudo editors, in that because it's your story that you've pounded into the keyboard, that you kind of have a little bit more, not control, not control's the wrong word. What's the word I'm looking for? You have more, not control. What's the word I'm looking for? Attention to what's going on. Yeah, you have a little bit more. Well, that's not quite what I meant when I said this.
Well, for me, it's usually the opposite. It's like I'll get to a point in the story and I'll realize, oh, I didn't think of what was going to happen here. it didn't occur to me that like, oh, well, this person's here and they're supposed to be here, and now I have to figure something out. Now I have to solve the problem that I've created for myself, or pave over a plot hole that I didn't realize I created. And in those moments, sometimes you get bursts of inspiration, little panic bursts. Yes.
I was just gonna say that.
It seems like I work best when my back is against the wall.
Right, okay. Panic mode sets in.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That works. It doesn't show, by the way. The book feels like a controlled storytelling. It's the pace of it's spot on. I really like the pace. It's a bit of a slow boiler at the start, and then as things, as the relationship, as you meet more of the characters, it kind of speeds up a little bit. The end, the climax, is chaotic. It's like, what's going on here? But it works, and I think the characters progress through their emotions very naturally. How did you kind of build that? Is this something you've kind of observed in your own kind of relationships with friends, family, and so on, or is it just kind of an inspirational thing?
I don't know. As a writer, it's something I spend so much time thinking about. It's so central to what I do that I almost don't even realize I'm doing it anymore. There's just this notion that as a character moves through a story, that they're going to have some kind of emotional arc, that they're going to be affected in some way by the story, and that story is going to tell us something about who they are. That's kind of the point of the exercise, and so for me, it's always about who the characters are and what I'm trying to say about them, and then the plot is an excuse to say that thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you've got, what your characters think, what you want them to say. The plot gives you the opportunity for them to say that naturally, rather than just blurt out stuff randomly like dialogue Tourette's.
Right.
Again, I've insulted loads of people with Tourette's. I'm sorry. I'm British. I'm quirky. What can I say?
Quirky.
There's a line in the book that made me think. I'm just, because I don't want to show the whole book out because I want people to go and buy it. So I'm just having a quick flick through to see if I can find it. It's the young punk that says it. Is it the shaved head girl with the mohawk?
Maybe. I don't know what line it is.
That's the character that says it. It says something about love being a fallacy of a
something about hetero-fascist conspiracy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. That's the line. And it took me by complete surprise, because I'm kind of like, I get that everyone has their own opinion on stuff, and that everyone each to their own, and I absolutely believe that 100%. In fact, I would go as far to say I am the most laid-back person about practically anything. I have been around this world too long to even, get bent out of shape out about anything. I am absolutely that person. But then reading the book, because it felt so positive and like so life affirming all the way through, and then there's one Oscar the Grouch character says something. I'm like, what are you doing? Get out of the trash can, son of a. Was that the kind of reaction that you want from that character, to kind of not throw a bit of reality onto the world, but just to kind of give it the whole not everything is peaches and cream?
Yeah, I think that character is, one of the reasons that she's there is to kind of take the wind out of people's sails, and I think I wanted to juxtapose her sort of like complete lack of faith in love with Joy and Kat's more, optimistic version of love. And some of that is to kind of set up the I don't want to
mind spoilers. I was going to say,
right.
Easy, Tiger, easy.
let's just say that
set some ramifications down the line, shall we say?
Ramifications down the line, yes.
There you go. End of book spoil avoided. Yeah. That's why I'm not showing the book, because I'm going through this. Acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Acceptance plays a large part in this book, in lots of different ways. You've got the obvious one, the acceptance of a trans lead, acceptance of them being in her and Kat being in a relationship. Do I need to quantify that? They're in a relationship.
They're in a relationship.
Yeah, that's it. That's fine. The interactions between other characters, and then kind of the acceptance that other relationships are never going to be anything than what they are right now. How important was it for you to kind of get that message of acceptance across, and how did you manage it so well without becoming preachy, as we mentioned at the start of the show? There you go. There's a hard question to end the show on, isn't it? You're like, son of a gun, Johnny. I was enjoying this, and now you said this.
I think preachiness comes from a place of strong intentionality, right? It's like we are telling the story so that we can make this point. The point comes first, and the story comes second. But that was never my intent. For me, the story and the characters come first, and whatever sort of theme comes out of that is, I sort of find that and sort of nurture it like a little flame until it becomes something coherent. So I think that I didn't set out to write a story with acceptance as a theme. I set out to write a story about a ghost hunter, but along the way, that's just what ended up coming out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference.
As well as the ghost hunter stuff. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if you like your scares, the book has a fair few of those for sure. So that if you like your horror, you're not going to be disappointed in any shape, way, or form. My last question, again, from a creator point of view: Hassan Otsman LOL and Jimmy Betancourt are the letterers for the project. Hassan Otsman LOL, I know I say his name wrong every time. What a gentleman. I met him at Thought Bubble last year, and what a good guy. And his work is fantastic. How did you manage to score such great letterers for your book?
With a lot of luck.
Fair enough.
And I'm very fortunate in that sometimes my editors will just come back and say, hey, guess what? We got this amazing person to be in your book. And I don't, I don't look a gift horse in the mouth, and I say, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Here's your check. Thank you.
Yes.
Fair enough. Right, we're coming to the end of the show. This is your... It's gone quick, hasn't it? It has gone quick. Right, so this is your 30-second, 60-second elevator pitch of why people should be heading over their comic book shops to order The Science of Ghosts.
People should buy The Science of Ghosts because I believe that it is a unique prospect. It's a book that is LGBTQ centered without being about an LGBTQ issue. It's also a very fun and exciting mystery. There's a mystery to be solved. There's ghosts. There's a creepy basement. So I think it ticks a lot of boxes. It ticks a mystery box. It ticks a horror box. It ticks a ghost story box. And it ticks kind of a love story box. So there's a lot happening in it. There's a lot of layers. And I think you read it, you'll like it.
Cool. I've read it and I liked it. So there you go.
Thank you.
There you go. There's one voice. I liked it a lot, indeed.
Thank you.
Right, let's have a look. So we have some banners. You have a website.
We do.
So LilahSturges.com. Imaginative title for a website, I must say.
Well, I'm a creator.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You have more. You have fires in the irons in the fire, as it were. I always get that one mixed up. There you go. We'll have a quick look. I think we have a little bit of time. Let's see if I can bring that up.
I hope you can.
I can. Just give me 2 seconds. There it is. Boom. And there you go. Website. There you go, girl. Haven.
That's my last book.
Yeah, there you go. Excellent. So you can have a look on there. Home, contact details, books. Let's have a look what's in the book section. Girl Haven.
This is
Lumberjanes.
Lumberjanes.
Yeah, that was massively popular. Well done. You must have been chuffed with that.
Oh, that was a big one for me and for my career, getting Lumberjanes.
Cool. A zebracorn. Oh my good God. I think I read that as well. The Magicians.
No, that was so fun to work on.
Is that an older book? When did that come out? When did that come out? The Magicians. Oh, 2020. I think
2020.
Yeah. I'm sure I've looked at that one. I'm sure I have. I review comics for Comic Crusaders. Well, I say I review. I'm the editor in chief. So there you go. Cool. Not that I'm dropping titles or anything. So yeah, you can check out the website for how to get those books and add them to your fantastic collection. There you go. Cool. To order the book, to order The Science of Ghosts, there's your diamond code. It's March or MAR 241750. The book is due out on the 19th of June, or June 19th, as you Americans like to say. I don't know why you do it that way. What's that all about?
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So there's your order code. Get down to your comic book shop, get it ordered. It is that simple. It is an absolute fantastic book to read. Full of detail. The art is gorgeous. The story works brilliantly. Lots of humor. Lots of scares. So yeah, good shout. Well done.
Thank you so much.
You are more than welcome. Lilah, it's been an absolute blast having you on the show. I'm so glad we managed to get this sorted. You know, I was so looking forward to speaking to you. And you know what? You haven't disappointed. It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for spending the time.
I'm glad we made it happen.
Woo! Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows. You saw the trailer for it earlier, the K-pop Cosmos. And if you like comics of a certain vintage, don't forget to check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. And if you like your big two, it's a no-price podcast for Marvel and the definitive crusade for everything DC. There you go. Everything's covered. Lilah, one more time, thank you so much. I really do genuinely appreciate it. I've had an absolute blast. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have been your host, Johnny Machine Hughes. And as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.